These 7 exercises are all you need to do to learn a language in 3 months. If you do them daily for 90 days, you can learn any language, understand it, and speak it fluently in 3 months or less. Why these specific exercises? Well, there are 2 main principles you need to follow if you want to learn something fast. You need to generate as many repetitions as possible, and you need to make as many mistakes as possible with immediate feedback. There are specific ways to do this efficiently in language learning, depending on the specific skill you're trying to improve at. Alright, let's look at the exercises one by one. Number 1. Listening while reading with English translation. This is the first thing you should do when you start learning a new language. This exercise is great to learn grammar and vocabulary. Also improves your listening comprehension and your pronunciation. But you're limited by the speed of the audio file, so do it at 1.5 or double speed if possible. Remember that you need to go fast to get as many repetitions as possible. Number 2. Listening while reading without English translation. This is obviously more difficult than the previous one because you don't get the translation, but it's good for reviewing and also for active recall. This will allow you to know which words you know and which ones you don't know. Again, you need to get as many repetitions as possible, so try to go fast. 1.5 or double speed if possible. Number 3 is speed reading with English translation on. This is the fastest exercise, so it's the best one for reviewing as much content as possible. Do it only with text you have already read while listening. And if you can't speed read, then start learning. The average person reads between 100 and 200 words per minute. With a little bit of training, you can easily increase your reading speed to 400 or 500 words per minute. With some serious training to 800, 1000 or even more. All of this while retaining as much information as earlier. So it's definitely worth the investment. Do this to review all the learning materials you're using. Number 4 is speed reading without the English translation. This is a little bit more difficult than the previous one because you will encounter some words that you don't know. It's good for reviewing and for active recall. Do this only with texts you've already read with the translation on. Number 5 is reading aloud. Reading aloud works on your speaking fluency, but it's much slower than previous exercises. Reading aloud is a great exercise. It's a simple and effective way to work on your speaking fluency with no pressure, but it's much slower than the previous exercises. You obviously can't read aloud as fast as you speed read. That means it's not good for reviewing content. This is why there's no silver bullet in language learning. Each exercise has its place to work on a specific area. Combine reading aloud with the previous exercises. Speed reading for reviewing, reading aloud to activate the vocabulary, and work on your speaking fluency. Number 6, listening and repeating drills. This exercise improves all areas of your speaking, your fluency, your accuracy, and your pronunciation. Attention to detail is really important here. Imitate not only the specific sounds, but also the tone and the tempo of the sentences. Use this to learn to speak in complete sentences using connected speech, instead of word by word like a robot. Number 7 is translation. Translation into the target language will improve your speaking skills. Without a tutor, without moving to the country or having to talk to native speakers. You'll learn to think in the language and you'll identify and correct all your usual mistakes. You will need a bilingual text for this. You can use learning materials like Assimil or create your own bilingual text. I recommend starting with your language islands. You simply look at the sentences in your own language, you translate them into the target language mentally, you say them aloud, you compare them with the original ones and self-correct. You can do this verbally, saying the sentences aloud, or you can do it using pen and paper. I recommend speaking because it's much faster. Remember that it is important to get as many repetitions as possible. Language production is always more difficult than comprehension. So I recommend doing this exercise after the active recall one, with sentences that you can already understand. The more you translate into the language and self-correct, the better you'll get at thinking in the language. Your speaking fluency will improve, you'll make fewer mistakes. Do these exercises regularly to improve your comprehension and your speaking skills. This is a highly efficient, science-based method to improve your ability to understand and speak any language fast. And I've got one last exercise for you that you can use to make all the previous ones faster and more efficient. This is memorization with associations. You visualize the words, you associate them with a meaning. Go watch my tutorials on how to do this. You can memorize over 100 words a day with this, making reading, listening, and speaking way easier from the very beginning. And that's it. Combine all these exercises in your daily learning sessions to improve in all areas of your language skills as many repetitions as possible by reading, listening, and speaking the language, and make mistakes and get immediate feedback with translation. Do this for an hour a day, every day for 90 days, and you can be fluent in any language in 3 months. Stop playing games and start doing the work. If you don't quit, you can't fail.